Good morning. I'd like to call the Finance Committee to order. All members are present and accounted for. I would accept a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Accept a motion for approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the minutes for the July 1st meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion or amendments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Ayes have it. First item on the agenda is SA 121, the first SA of the year. I don't know, colleagues, if you got the email that had two more detailed attachments. One was showing the SA, and then a two-page thing that shows.
I don't have it.
It was sent to us this morning by email.
From whom?
Jody?
For me.
Jody? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me.
You should already have the SA in front of you, and on the SA, we are asking to appropriate $3,197,333 of the Big County CARES Act funding, and I wanted to provide you some detail on what that represents, because last time we had a detailed schedule, and unfortunately, I just got it finished yesterday. And the city manager had said something. He thinks that the headings are a little confusing, so I'm going to walk you through this schedule.
I don't have it. I do not have it. I've got something from the audit committee from you, but that's it.
I'll forward this to you, Fred.
Thanks. Up. Wait a minute. 924. Looks like I have it.
I just need 1 minute because I'm printing them out. I'm pulling them up on my phone. I can't read the minuscule. Do we need both documents, Jody?
Well, the first document is just the SA itself, which you may already have in front of you.
It's in our It's in our agenda, but it's also there for you to print out.
Okay, I'm printing them out now.
Jody, should this be attached to the essay, the additional information? Okay.
Yeah, I would attach it to the essay.
Okay.
Is it possible I've seen this before?
Well,
Jody?
Remember in June, we came to you for appropriation authority for $2 million of this $4 million. And when we gave you that, we had a schedule just like this attached to it. This one is updated. There's been a few line items added.
Okay.
New initiatives that they've developed going into FY 21.
Thank you.
All right. Are we ready to proceed?
Sheila's missing.
I need more light. No, I had to turn on. I'm good. I have everything.
All right.
Just needed more light. More light, more light, more light.
Sheila's going to shed some light on this for us.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Counting on Jody to do that.
All right. So on the essay itself, we are coming to you for appropriation authority to spend the CARES Act money that we've gotten from several sources. Remember, we got some from the fire department, got some ambulatory support from DHS. They
Jody, how much was that? I don't recall hearing this.
So if you look at the essay, it's $68,329.
Okay.
They know what they want to spend that on a piece of equipment, and they're ordering it, but they didn't get that purchase order into the system by June 30. So we need to reappropriate that for this year. The second piece is the Teresa Wellman's funding, the CDBG funding, the $156,651 from Department of Housing and Urban Development. They have given them $156,000, and they have They have a list of initiatives that they want to put that towards. And I mentioned this meeting to Teresa the other day, but I don't know if she asked to be included on the invite list or not. And if you want her to talk about what she's going to do with this, but they do need that money reappropriated in 21.
Jody, is that additional CBDG money?
It's in addition to their annual amount.
Yes.
And they received it in the spring, but they didn't yet know what they were going to spend it on. When we came to you in June, we asked for an appropriation for it, but they didn't have their initiatives lined up yet. So they now are ready to start spending, and they need the appropriation for 21.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one in this essay is the Department of Justice. Our BJ grant gave us another $55,434. And if you remember, the police department wants to use that money to buy 2 electronic signboards for COVID purposes. And they also did not get their purchase order in before the end of the year. So we're asking to reappropriate that in 21 so they can make that purchase. The MDOT money that went to the transportation fund, we asked for that appropriation in 20. We do not yet know how much of that they will use in 20 because that won't be evident until they close their books for the year. And we are still recording accrued expenses into the transportation fund. So once we have a better idea of that, we'll know how much of the $4 million we used in 20. This request appropriates the total amount again in 21. But again, if we use some of it in 20, we cannot use the full $4 million in 21.
Jody, may I ask, that's the money that does not have to be spent in the course of December 30th?
Right. That money can be used for any transit operating expenses, and it does not time out at December 30. As of right now, it doesn't even time out at the end of this fiscal year. It may be able to carry forward into other fiscal years.
Okay. And I'm not sure whether you said do you know how much of this needed to be allocated in the 20 budget?
No, not yet. So we set up the appropriation in 20. We knew they weren't going to use it all, but we didn't know how much they were going to use. They have to accumulate all of their FY20 expenses, and that process usually takes a month to 2 months after year end to make sure they have all their expenses recorded, because invoices come in after year end, and then they have to decide how much of this money they'll need to tap for FY20. If their revenues fell short from their transit operations, they may have to tap some of this revenue. We won't know that number until later. So to come to you today, that's the full amount of the grant there. But if they use some of it in 20, we will not be able to spend that again in 21, and we will reduce the appropriation to match.
Did we appropriate this amount in 20?
Correct, we did.
The entire amount?
Yeah, and we knew they probably weren't going to need it all, but at that time, we did not know what they would need, how much they would need. So to err on the side of caution, we asked for the full amount. We'll know what that amount is later, probably at the end of August. And then the rest of this will be spent, will be up for appropriation in 21. And
this cannot go into the general fund if we have a revenue. Okay, you know what I was getting to.
For transit operations only.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So the next big number, the last number there that you see, the county operating grant revenue, the $3,197,333, is our estimate of how much of that county cares grant we want to spend in 21. The amount. So if you then go to that supporting schedule that I gave you, I'll guide you through the supporting schedule and outline what it is we want to do with this funding and how we came up with that amount.
But Jody, before we do that, so am I correct? The total amount here is $7,651,646. Is that the total amount of?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we expecting any more COVID money to be coming in fiscal 21?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Not that I know of. It's possible. I know there's some things going on at the federal level. I don't know if we'll end up getting any of that or not. David,
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion of what they call the HEROES Act, that will be money flowing to state, county, and city governments. There's a lot of chatter. I guess yesterday, Nancy Pelosi said that she's willing to postpone the August recess to get this passed. So there seems to be a lot of talk that the Senate may go ahead and move it forward. The House passed it a while ago, but the Senate refused to move it. Now that I guess they're negotiating. So there may be some additional money coming our way. And that would be for revenue shortfalls, is my understanding.
that would be great.
Yeah, so that was my next question. I happened to run into Shanika at the drugstore yesterday, and we were talking about the governor cutting back our pilot, and I was asking her, does that mean we're absolved from the housing study? And I don't think I got a yes. That I think we are still on the hook for that. But because we are getting that shortfall, and we've been worrying about the not filling vacancies, are any of these monies going to be able to help us with the finances in fiscal 21?
I would say that to the extent that we can take salary charges out of the general fund and use the CARES money to fund those salaries, that will relieve some of the pressure on the general fund. But again, we have to conform to the requirements of the Federal CARES Act spending that they've been giving out, and they keep giving us new interpretations on a regular basis. So we have to keep following what they will allow us to use the money for. And as much as we can do that, we will do it and relieve the general fund, and that will help us.
So as I said in other situations, I think I said it last at the Financial Advisory Commission, my sense of 21 when we first started looking at the budget was one of foreboding under the cloud of COVID. But now I think we're blooming of COVID financially, given our traditional being conservative in our budgeting, so we don't count as much revenue as we are likely to get, and we do fully appropriate and end up not spending it all, plus whatever monies we're going to be able to use to help the budget through this legitimately through this COVID money. It feels to me like going into 21, it's not going to be the doom and gloom. I mean, knock on wood, but doesn't feel like it's going to be the doom and gloom kind of scenario that I think we were starting off the budget deliberations thinking we were facing. Am I at all correct in that notion?
Ross, you're spoiling your best arguments.
I'm not sure we can make that determination yet. I'm not comfortable enough to say that. I have to see, we know we're missing the pilot money, and if we can make up that difference somehow, we still have to see what impact this is going to have on our income tax withholdings going into this next year. And those have kind of delayed a response to economic downturns. So that's a possibility. And property taxes, personal property taxes will take a hit as businesses close.
Right.
So that's also going to have a delayed impact. So I can't say that for all of 21, it's going to look rosy. I mean, right now it looks good, but we're also facing this second spike that seems to be going on around the nation, and whether or not that's going to impact us, we don't know yet. So.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that too. Remember that we assumed that the first quarter would be bad, but then starting the second quarter that we would be recovering. I think that's probably overly optimistic now, knowing what we know about the bounce back of COVID nationwide. There's some signs that is starting to happen a little bit here in Maryland, just because people come and go and visit those places where it's spiking and are bringing it back. So it's gradually starting to curve back up for Maryland as well, but certainly not to the extent that it is for the southern states.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll wait till we get our first update from you 2 months. the budget and see where we're thinking now. So I'm sorry, that was really more appropriate for the general discussion session. You were about to lead us through the 2 pages of how to look at the CARES money.
Yes. So what we did in this schedule is we have our different initiatives listed down the left of the schedule. The first one, for instance, being the hazard pay bonuses that we are still going to issue. We had the first column shows you the amount that we had asked for in our initial supplemental appropriation for 20. That column totals the $2 million that you awarded us an appropriation authority for FY20. Then the second column shows you what we have actually used as in the form of an expense or an encumbrance. If a purchase order has been issued for something, it's in this number and comes out of the $2 million for FY20. So then the third column is the difference between those two. How much is left from that initiative? Now you'll see, for instance, on the hazard pay, we have not issued those checks yet, but when we do, they're going to be accrued back into 20 because they're related to the time spent and the hazard efforts in 20. So we've got those as showing as actual expense and encumbrances, even though we haven't issued them. The CARES money, as of now, will not cover anything other than the public safety bonuses. So if we give bonuses to other employees, we have to find a way to cover that. So as you see, the actual is only estimated to be about 400,000, and there will be 200 left. So as you go down that list,
Jody, before you go forward, and City Manager Gerald, the question for both of you. When are we going to talk about how we can give those hazardous pay bonuses to everyone and how we can come up with the funding for that? So right, if you look at that second line, we have found out also that we can move some of these public safety salaries over to be covered by the CARES amount. So that relief from our general fund expenses may allow us to cover the other set of bonuses for the other employees, which is what we're trying to work out right now. How much salary from FY20 can we cover with the CARES funding that will move out of the general fund to the CARES grant? And then we will have room within the general fund to pay the additional bonuses that we wanted to pay that were more risk-based bonuses, because CARES cover the public safety ones. So the 250 is what you'll be able to encumber from public safety expenditures. What is the 370?
370. So that column is the 21 amount. If you look at the bottom of that column, that's going to total to the $2,250,000 that we didn't encumber, that we didn't appropriate for FY20. Remember, the total grant was $4,250,000. We had encumbered $2 million in 20, and we're showing you in the third column what's left of the $2 million. Then we put the $2,250,000 in this next to the last column, and those are what we plan to do with the $2,250,000 in 21. And the 370 is additional salaries that are going to be incurred in 21 that would be COVID related that we can move over to the COVID grant. And that's going to include fire, police, OEM, and any other redeployed personnel from our other departments that are not functioning in their normal capacity. I don't think there's going to be a lot of those type this year, but the police, fire, and OEM, there's a substantial amount of that can be moved over. So let me understand that I'm reading this correctly. So we have $200,000 for hazardous pay for the public safety folks, and then an additional $370,000
in 21 for the same public safety.
Okay, so the second line is the 250 is salaries, public safety salaries that will be covered by the COVID grant on top of the bonuses. Then
okay.
in the next column, there's 370 that we're estimating to move over for the same thing. Yeah, so the way you said it was correct.
So it's almost, if you look at the bottom of the second page and you look at the totals, you'll see the $2 million that we appropriated with the SA 35. The next column over shows what we spent of that $2 million. The next one shows what's left of that $2 million. And then the fourth column over is what we're thinking about spending in fiscal 21.
In addition to the 947. So the final number over there, the 3,197,000 is a total of what's left over from the 2 million and the extra 2,250,000. All of this, if we're going to spend it, is limited to a December 30 deadline as of now.
And I understand the bottom,
Okay.
It was just the 370. I was just wondering where that number came from.
Yes.
That's
our estimate of what salaries from public safety will be covered by the COVID grant in FY21.
Okay, I would like to come back, and we can wait until after this is over, to talk about transportation, recs and parks, and those other departments that are not eligible to get this heroes pay. But I just want to make sure that everybody is eligible as far as we are concerned because of their involvement with city
Correct.
responsibilities.
Correct. And that's our interest as well. And like I said, the CARES money won't pay for that type. Yeah, but if we alleviate enough from our general fund expenses, we're hoping to make room enough to pay the other group of employees that are more public facing some kind of hazard pay bonus.
Okay, what I'm looking for is we're going to do this and we'll do it by X date. Okay. That's what I want to hear.
All right.
Thank you.
As you go down this list, you'll see what we're planning to do with the $2,250,000 in 21, and there are some new initiatives on there. So I'm not sure if you want to talk about any of the new things we have.
Okay.
I have a question, of course, about the Office of Community Caring. I requested $66,000. I see it's up to $125,000, which is a good thing. I assume the additional would be for the cost of 2 part-time bilingual caseworkers. And I would just be interested in knowing how that breaks down, because I am looking at getting a master's level caseworker, certified trained caseworker.
Right, so I will tell you that Lynn Farrow put these numbers together, and she calculated those initiatives there because she's helps us out with the grants. So I don't know if she's available to hop on the call today, or if she can provide.
Let me check and see if she's over there.
Yeah.
And so while she's coming, the other question is, and I guess this is directly for her, the task force on small business recovery had requested, and as far as I was concerned, from the mayor and the city manager, I think I spoke to the city manager for them, was an additional $25,000 for their public relations campaign. And I'm not seeing that anywhere. Maybe it's lumped into recovery.
Yeah, it may be part of the recovery zone amounts that you see there for the equipment and the operations.
Lynn is joining the meeting.
All right.
So So these numbers we could change if we thought there should be some different allocations then.
Yeah, so these are just, this is a list of the intended initiatives. Nothing here locks us into any of these numbers. We can add things, take things away. As you can see from the 20 numbers, we overspent and underspent on different initiatives. So, you know, so the thing that you are appropriating today is that bottom line. And then what we do with that can be fluid.
Okay.
But it's good to have a plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good that we get to weigh in on that plan.
So you may want to, Lynn's on.
Come on. Yes. What was there a question? I'm sorry. I was in another meeting.
No, I know. We're pulled in different directions.
Yes.
They want to know the calculation of the Office of Community Caring. 120. How did you come up with that number?
So the original estimate was 72,500. That was what we had in our original spreadsheet that we sent to the county. That was the number that we were given originally. And I just figured that was not enough. So I added to it. And so basically doubling it, because it was, like I said, it was 72,500 was the number that was originally given to us for the Office of Community Caring. And I figured if we were going to have 3 employees, that would not be enough. And so I doubled that amount. But like Jody said, it's all just an estimate. And if we need to move things around, we certainly can.
Well, I had 2 questions, Lynn, about that community caring position. I had requested 1 position and at 66,000. I'm not sure where did the 72,000 come from.
That probably included fringes.
Well, that would have been another 30% on top of the 65,000. But this clearly says 2 part-time people. And there may be adequate funding here to do 1 full-time and 2 part-time. I'm good with that. I just wondered where that number came from and how it's broken down. But you said you just simply doubled the number that you had been given, which raised the question, who came up with that other number? Because
what, the 72.5? Oh, the 72. Yeah. I don't know. That was the number that was given me.
By whom? That's what I'm saying. We have,
Oh, yeah.
I made the request, so.
Yes, it's hard to say now because that was several months ago, but exactly by whom, but that was the number that I was given for the Office of Community Caring that was in the spreadsheet that we had originally. So
Jody says that these numbers can be adjusted. So we need to talk to Trish, who's working with me on the job description for the first person. But Lynn, I'd like for you to go back into records to see to whom we should be talking to about those other 2 part-time positions. Because there's got to be a job description or something for those positions. My other question had to do with the $25,000 for the small business recovery task force. If you recall, we had requested and was approved by the mayor for $25,000 for the PR. And so I'm not seeing that anywhere in the spreadsheet. So where would that be?
We can add that. That was not there. So do you recall what the purpose was?
Yeah, they wanted to do PR to get out to the businesses about the availability of programming, support, because a lot of the businesses are not tied into the city resources. And so, what's his name? The attorney, Gavin's friend. Gormley, right. Joe Gormley, and I apologize, Joe. Had some connections to get us into the airways and other ways to get the word out about the resources available for small businesses. So that's what the 25,000 was to be used for. So I don't know where we can put that, but that needs to be added.
We can find that.
We should be able to take that out of the recovery zone operations.
Yeah,
we have $250,000 in that line item. So
okay.
And I wanted to add. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. On the Office of Community Caring, the money that comes out of the CARES grant has to be used before by December 30th. And we also have money in the operating budget, if you recall, in the general fund to help fund that office as well, which I assume would be the second half of the year. As it happens. So maybe 125 is a little more than we need for a full-time social worker with a master's. I'm not sure what the market is for that position. And the 2 part-time people, maybe 125 for salaries and benefits is too much. We don't know yet. We'll have to price that out. And then the rest of it will have to be covered with the general fund.
And I am cognizant of the December 30th deadline, and I am counting on us being able to come up with the additional monies for in 21 to finish the year with those positions.
Okay. So
thank you. I'm done. So
I don't know if you have any more questions on the schedule. There's a few initiatives listed down there that come to the $2,250,000, and so we're asking for $3,197,333 and appropriations for 21.
Okay, thank you, Lynn.
All looks clear.
Oh, you're welcome, Sheila.
Building retrofits.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
I'm good. Ross, if you're not asking a question, I have another question for City Manager Gerald. Can we call you just Director of the City? And because we keep saying Director Gerald, we need a title we can get right. I'm sorry, no, City Manager Gerald. I'm having issues with the Stanton Center and the cleansing of the building, which makes me question the cleanliness of all of our buildings in light of this pandemic. Is this the funding, $475,000, to cover all of the thorough cleansing, sanitizing, all those words to make our buildings healthy and safe?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we have a janitorial contract that's been doing that in all the other buildings. The issue at the Stanton Center is that each of the lessees are responsible for cleaning their own area. But I agree with you. I think we should go in and make a clean sweep of that entire building using this COVID money. We've got plenty of money to do that, and that's the right thing to do. So we'll schedule that and get that done.
Thank you. And it seems to be some problems with air ducts. So please include that in the cleaning agenda.
Yeah, they'll at least have somebody take a look at that.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I take a second, Sheila, since you
I'm done.
raised the question of how we address the city manager. I was at a meeting of another sort a week or so ago, and it was pointed out to me by one of those people that at city council meetings, we tend to address the males by their last name or title, and the females, and I noticed we're talking to Jody and Lynn today, females by their first name, and it was pointed out that that could be considered disrespectful. I think we're going to have to. I prefer using first names. I think we're colleagues, and I would be much more comfortable with that. But I do think we need to be consistent. If we're going to say Jody and Lynn, we need to say David and Fred, not City Manager Gerald. And I think we probably should have a little chat amongst our colleagues on the council. I was quite embarrassed because I was referring to Dr. Nash as Sally, and I got brought up short saying, no, that's Dr. Nash. So it's a point that has been brought to my attention, and it's because of watching the city council in operation. So Just a little political correctness sidebar here. Again, I prefer informal, but I'll do whatever we need to do for people's comfort level.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I don't think it's disrespectful to use first names as long as we're using them for everybody. So that would be my personal preference for addressing me. So I'm sure others feel the same way.
So you feel it's okay to use everybody's first name or everybody's title, just don't mix them up.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, it's not like we don't know each other. I mean, I've passed Alderwoman Finlayson in the hall in the morning. Oh, good morning, Alderwoman. I mean, you know, hey Sheila, how you doing? How's the coffee? I mean, that's
I know,
a little
but
tough.
it is this area of sensitivity. I was brought up short by it, and I wanted to.
I got it too. I think we all did.
Yeah.
Well, may I weigh in as being the only female on this committee? To me, and maybe this is my teacher coming out, and how I taught my students, especially when it relates to public speaking, that you treat people with the respect that they've earned. And along with that goes their title. I started calling Sally Nash, Dr. Nash, many years ago because I could see that people were disrespecting her credentials. And I wanted to point those credentials out. And so I tend to highlight people's credentials to say they have the professional experience and credentials to be able to speak in this capacity. In an informal setting, I have no problem, and I'll do whatever you guys want to do. But in an informal setting, absolutely, first names are appropriate. But we expect people to be respectful and professional when they come before the city council. And so I think it would be appropriate that we treat one another the same way in a public setting. Now, if we don't care what they call us at the city council meetings, that's fine. But you know what? I miss Finn no matter what from my students from 35 years of teaching, and I've been out since 07. What's that? More than 10 years, 13 years. And they still speak to me that way because they respect me and they know what I stand for. And I taught them to feel that same respect for themselves. So, you know, I'm coming from a very different perspective than you guys are. But it's a respect thing and it's a professionalism thing for me. But as I said, if you all want to use first names all the time, I have one that I like. So I'm good.
So, Madam Finance Director, I believe Alderwoman Finlayson wanted to go back to the SA and discuss some of the subcomponents. Is that correct, Alderwoman Finlayson?
I don't think so. I think I went through all of them, didn't I?
I thought you wanted.
We're done.
Okay.
You said she was.
Then committee, do we need any further discussion, or should we have a motion, or can I have a motion to recommend approval of SA 121?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Thank you, Madam Finance Director, for walking us through that. All those in favor of this, what is SA anyway? Supplemental Appropriation 121, signify by saying aye.
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 The ayes have it. The recommendation is so made to the City Council.
Mr. Chair, you bring up an issue and then you ignore it. You don't finish it. So what is our recommendation going to be about how we address one another, or do we just not care?
Well, I thought you made it very clear that this is a public setting. So in a public setting, we're going to use formal titles.
Well, okay, if we all agree on that.
This is
I'll go along.
City Council meeting.
Look, if I might, the most important thing is that we use respectful titles, treat each other with respect, not only treat each other with respect, but appear to treat each other with respect. And, you know, sometimes that can be done perfectly well using first names. It does get a little confusing when somebody uses a first name, somebody uses a title. But here's the bottom line. You treat each other respectfully, and I don't think we're going to have this problem. And it happens that to me, we probably ought to use titles in general, but it's not the end of the world if somebody uses a first name and does it on a fairly consistent basis. It's the respectful intent that's important here.
I think this discussion needs to be had with everyone because, Fred, you're making a good point. And the last council meeting was an example of disrespect to one another. And I think we should be clear that that's not to be tolerated.
Right.
All right. So maybe this is something we can talk about briefly at the work session when council is together. But Alderwoman Finlayson, I did think I heard you say show respect in a public setting. This is a public setting. And so I want people to be comfortable. I'm more comfortable being informal, but I got called on it at this meeting, which was a community meeting, not a city council meeting, but it was brought up that the observation of city council meetings were that we're inconsistent, that we called women by their first name and men by their title. That's not acceptable to me, and I certainly, I'm guilty of that, want to correct it. But I don't think this is the committee to address that. I think we need to do it.
I got a copy of the same thing, I'm pretty sure. It was from one of your colleagues and somebody that's fairly well, respected as far as I know. And got my attention for sure.
Yeah. I certainly get disrespected by some of my constituents, even this morning. But anyway.
Well, I've seen you being disrespected without a word being exchanged, Usually
it's hand gestures, but
gestures.
Moving right along. We're now at the part of the agenda for general discussion, which usually includes an update from the finance director. Madam Finance Director, do we have some things you would like to convey?
So I'll just talk about the top things that we're working on right now. As you know, the bond ordinance was introduced to council. We should have a public hearing this next meeting about the bond authority for issuing debt in the fall for the capital projects. That's an important piece of legislation, and would like to make sure it keeps on track and goes through on the normal schedule. We've been working on finalizing the budget books. As you may know, the capital budget book has been finalized and is online now. The operating book is still in process. We're getting there. We've got the numbers pulled together. Now it's just a matter of checking and double checking to make sure we've got all the corrections in there. And that should be probably by the end of this month. That was my goal for Katie, to have that done by the end of the month. We also are working hard on the COVID-19 expenses, trying to get them into the right year, trying to get these hazard bonuses out, get the list of employees settled on that. And it's cumbersome, but we're working through it. We've made some progress there. We are moving towards having ADP actually issue the final step of the payroll process, sending out the checks, doing the direct deposits and doing the tax filings. We're working with ADP to implement that, but we've hit a couple glitches in how their system is working with Munis, so that's been slowed down a bit. So we're hoping to have their help mostly on the tax side and the distribution of the payment side. And that's going to take a load off us, and it's relatively affordable for that service. We continue to work on OpenGov. Implementing OpenGov, we're moving along on that. We've had a lot of work to do in these last couple of weeks on getting the system updated for July 1. We've got new rates for all of the enterprise funds. We've got We've got, you know, the 3% COLA went through. We have to update for that. And we have to get the new healthcare premiums in the system. So my staff's been working very hard on that as well. Those are the main things we've been working on, besides, you know, trying to move along and get all the other things caught up that get pushed back on the back burner during the budget process. So,
can you help me? I'm trying to remember, there was something at the FAC meeting. I know we discussed the bond issuance fairly thoroughly. They're waiting to see when that's going to go on the council agenda. They might have to have a meeting on the 13th of August, but probably will be able to do their regular meeting on the 11th in time to give the council recommendation for the vote in the first September meeting, which I don't remember the date of it. But I thought there was something else that the fact was, I think Bob Burden brought it up, but I'm blanking, and this is one of those times that I can't find my.
They had, yeah. Where's that shelf? They have a subcommittee. They were working on a spending affordability role that they might have. They're researching that and what their role might be in that regard.
I think that's going to be a very interesting thing. They've done. It's Bob Burden and don't remember the other gentleman's name. He's new on the FAC, but they've at other. Been looking at the county, but other counties as well to model the spending affordability thing, which I hope when we have our meeting on Thursday, we're going to get into some discussion about getting the finance committee and the council with regard to finances more up to the 40,000 foot level. I still want to see a line item budget, but I think that's something we can do on our own. But the spending affordability and thinking about the big policy issues is something that I really feel the need to do. I know colleagues that were not on the finance committee, even though some of them, particularly Ellie Tierney, came pretty regularly to the finance.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Alderwoman Tierney. Well, I used her last name, at least. Alderwoman Tierney, Alderman Gay, Alderman Savage sat in from time to time. But it really comes together so quickly. And we tend to focus on, like we did at the last council meeting, the community grants, which are important, but are like 0.001% of the entire budget and so forth. And so this the spending thing looks more at our ability to operate at the levels we're operating at. And so I'm hoping they will get that study to us fairly soon. So that's my report on the FAC meeting. Not a written one, unfortunately. Alderwoman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you. Question for Jody, going back to the heroes pay. Do we know, or can you share with us? Sorry.
You're busy.
My phone always rings, never rings outside of a meeting, but when I'm in a meeting, constantly, and I don't know how to turn it off. I'm sorry. How much are we giving in heroes pay? Does everybody get the same amount? Who makes the decision? And when we get outside of the public relations employees, who makes the decision about them? Whether, it's just the bus drivers, is it, who is it in transportation? Who is it in recs and parks? Yeah. And what role do the directors have in making that recommendation?
So I can answer in general. We have two different levels of bonuses. 1,500 is the planned full bonus. That's mainly for public safety. There are definitions behind who would qualify for 1,500, and then past that for the others that there's some criteria. I have to open up my schedule and look at the definition. I don't know if David, City Manager Gerald, knows off the top of his head. It's about how often you have contact, And if it's a
I'm happy to explain that further. So there's two levels: $1,500 and $750. The $1,500 are for people that potentially have direct contact with people that could potentially have COVID. The $750 is for people that are out in public working, but without responding to cases. Like police and fire do, where you get a call and they say, we need to go to the hospital because we, potentially may have COVID, and they respond and take care of those cases. So like the bus drivers, we categorize them as the $1,500 pay because potentially there's people that are coming on those buses that could have it. So we went through, we being the HR director and I primarily, HR director took the first cut, and then I reviewed and approved the split of the employees that would get the two levels, and then we ran it by the department directors to get their agreement, and then we made adjustments as needed to some of those employees that had more direct contact. So that's how we came up with the list, and that's how I had the two levels. So all of the employees that were out and about working in public during this entire time will get it, and they'll get it at one of those two levels depending on their direct involvement.
Thank you, City Manager Gerald. And I'm not objecting. I'm just wanting to know because I'm getting questions, and because there's been a delay in receiving these bonuses, people was like, are we getting it or not? And what's going on? And I said, don't know. So I'm asking.
And just to give you an update on that as well. So when we decided that we really needed to hold off on this so that we could sort through the salary replacement to free up money for all the other employees that aren't directly qualified for it under the CARES Act, we called each of the union presidents and told them what was going on and told them why we were delaying. And, even the ones that clearly are qualified to get it, which is police and fire and OEM, we told them we wanted to do it all together with the whole workforce and not do them first and then come later and do that. And they were very understanding and accepting of that idea. So now we just need to do it. I think we all agree that we're ready to make the payments, and we're really close to doing it.
Well, thank you. I know a lot of work went into it, and I know that the employees will appreciate, the consideration of them and their work. So thank you.
If I can make another pesky interjection here, now that I've caused trouble for this meeting.
No, you can't.
Mr. City Manager and Ms. Assistant City Manager, this piece of information about bonuses, and yesterday at the Rules Committee, the information from Dr. Nash about the award of the contract to look at the short-term vacation rentals are really the kinds of things that I would like to see in the city manager's report rather than the data dump. I mean, these are the day-to-day, almost colloquial kinds of things that we need to know. And I do hope we're going to go back. Ms. Barrow, we did not get to the performance measures. I still very much value the work you did on that. I think that we need to continue to strive to improve it and make it more consistent. And so I want to talk about that. But I also think this onerous burden of the current form of the monthly city manager's report is just that, a burden, and not particularly helpful. But these tidbits are almost like stream of thought as they come along. Kinds of things really are useful and really would make me wait with bated breath to see the next report.
So, I think you'll be very pleased. I think you'll be very pleased with the new version. And they have pictures and everything. So
wonderful.
Because we are visual learners, so we need to.
So and I if I could just focus on it for, for a period of time to get at least one done for you. I work on it and then I get pulled away. So, but I am diligently, it's on my list of things to do every day.
Mr. Chair.
When you see them.
Yes, Alderman Payon.
For what it's worth, the audit committee is going to be looking into some of the things that you mentioned, including the goals and the of each department, and whether or not they're reaching their goals, managing their goals appropriately, that sort of thing. We think that's right up our alley, and we certainly plan on fulfilling our obligations in that regard.
Thank you for that. I do think this performance measurement, I liked using it for the budget. I think that it's, particularly as we get them more consistent across departments, going to be a very good tool for the departments, and I think good publicity for the departments. I was impressed with the Public Works report.
Yeah.
Planning also did a nice one, but I think everybody did a good job. But those are things that I would like to see online to when our constituents say, what are we paying these people for? That's what you're paying them for, and those are the things you get. And
we also have to learn that is not just a really good job, but that's the level of performance on that particular task that we expect from everybody. We expect a high level like that. And I don't know that the acting director did anything, phenomenal. That it was somewhat unexpected because, well, she did it very, very well. But there's no reason why the taxpayers shouldn't expect almost every task that we give our folks to do done very, very well. And that's my point. And I think that I almost said it, that the acting director, I think, picked that up, ran with it, and did beautifully. And most of the other departments did the same thing. They're to be commended.
This is what happens when we don't have legislation on our agenda. All these directors. Is there anything else for the good of the order, or can we entertain a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager Gerald, please